The Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index is one of the best tools you can use to buy Bitcoin, but it's also not the best tool for selling it unless you understand it. Before we go any farther, please check our disclaimer. So, every single cycle, people wait for extreme fear to buy the dip. And every single cycle, those same people try to sell it when it hits extreme greed. The second part is where so many get it wrong. I think this market is so much easier to buy the dip than it is to sell the peaks. Now, when it works great. And when this indicator doesn't work, it can fail you. So, we're going to look at how the fear and greed index fits into a risk defined Bitcoin strategy, whether you're a trader or an investor. We're not prediction framing. We're going to position our portfolios for success. Now, the Bitcoin, the mm, now the bit now the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index today is actually sitting at 10. And this index aggregates volatility, momentum, social sentiment, dominance, and even trends. Look, it's not a magic indicator. It just is a composite of the crypto market sentiment. How do people feel about Bitcoin and crypto right now? But Bitcoin has a tendency to stay in extreme greed or extreme fear for extended amounts of times. And I believe that Bitcoin during a bull run can stay in extreme greed for a long period of time. Although last cycle, that was not quite the case. So this is where I believe fear and greed index it's I believe this is where the fear and greed index shines. So when this index is pinned in extreme fear like it is now, number 10, what it actually means is volatility is elevated, social sentiment is negative, news flow is bearish, and retail is emotionally exhausted. So that is when the liquidity actually dries up. This is when the forced sellers appear, and it's also when long term buyers quietly begin to accumulate Bitcoin. Look, as a teacher, I don't buy Bitcoin because I feel confident, but I'll buy when the market feels uncomfortable. When we are in extreme fear, I'm running into that burning building, laughing at all the people running out. So this index tends to work best during a drawdown that's severe, a capitulation event, or when macro fear spikes in the short term. It has to usually be paired with some other structures, i.e., support and resistance, moving averages, or other indicators. Now, I truly believe that the fear and greed index, yes, it can work to sell because we do go into extreme greed above 80 at times. That is always a great time to sell. But there are times where the index can go into greed and extreme greed for extended amount of times. It often will mean the momentum is strong like it is during the bull run when we are back above our moving averages. Hmm. When this is happening, the trend is intact, liquidity is expanding, and the breakouts are happening. Now, in bull markets, this greed, as I said, can stay elevated for months. So if you sell every single time that greed spikes, you're going to start underperforming the trend. So this is where traders could get chopped, or at least they're not maximizing their gains in this market. So I like to use it asymmetrically, right? When the fear aligns with structure, I'm using it as a buying tool. And greed alone is not a validation for me to sell my position. So my rule is I sell when greed is high and structure is breaking. But many times I will buy when we are in fear or extreme fear because those are usually excellent buying opportunities. Now, if you take a look at our chart right here over all these different dates, and we're going to go to the all-time index. We're kind of zoomed in right now. I can zoom out and show much, much more of this, right? So looking at this chart, you can see that we bottomed out around $11,000 Bitcoin. No, excuse me, $67,000 Bitcoin, and we were sitting at a fear of 10. What's crazy is I can go back here when we touched into 10 also. This is on August of 2019, and price was sitting at 101. I go back even further, or not, excuse me, not 101, $10,743. So even though the crypto market runs on emotion, excuse me, the fact that the crypto market runs on emotion, this is an indicator we should add to our tool belt. Now, the fear and greed index should never ever be used alone in this market. You should be pairing it with like moving averages, liquidity levels, support and resistance, volume, and even macro invalidation. So when that extreme fear lines up with your research and your structural support, that is when this indicator matters. So let's discuss quickly when the fear and greed index could fail, because it can fail during very bullish or very bearish times. When fear is heavily in the market, like it is right now, we have been in the fear range quite a while. If I zoom in, that we pretty much stayed within the fear range really since the end of October. So this indicator gives you more of a mid short-term sentiment of the crypto market. It does change day to day, but if you look at it over a longer time frame, you begin to see trends. And if you look here, buying in extreme fear would not be that bad of a plan, not financial advice, of course. So here's the trap. If you treat sentiment as a signal instead of a condition that you're looking at, you're going to be constantly fighting the trend in the market. So just consider applying this practical framework. If extreme fear and structural support both exist, we scale into our positions. If extreme greed and structure are intact, we don't necessarily do anything yet. Now, if extreme greed and structural breakdown is there, we start to reduce our risk. So when the sentiment confirms our beliefs, or excuse me, sentiment can confirm our belief, but the structure is what dictates my decision. So Bitcoin cycles tend to expand on optimism. They bottom on despair. This fear and greed index helps you to see that. How to act when the market is uncomfortable, avoid emotional buying and selling, and avoid panicking and selling your positions for a loss only to buy back later at a higher price. Just realize that this indicator cannot call tops precisely. It will not replace risk management and it is not predicting the price, but it can be another tool to add to your toolbox. So remember, all this here is for educational purpose only, and please manage your own risk entering the market. Now, to summarize some of our main points, this index does not tell you where price is going. It will tell you how people feel. And people are usually wrong at the emotional extremes. So if you want real time structured updates, post those in my Telegram group, link in the description. And if you want deeper cycle frameworks, join Dad's DeFi space in my email list below. And if you're trading or new to trading, please consider supporting us by using our exchange links in the description. 15% off your fees, and always manage your own risk. Now, you really should be paying attention to the 200-week moving average. Check out our video from about a week ago and why it's an excellent moving average for us to watch and when to start accumulating Bitcoin, because sentiment without structure is completely incomplete. So go out, touch some grass, and until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace